And just finally, George, tell me about the bridge that will be built for the Australian Army Engineer Unit.
Thank you. This is one of my favourite subjects, actually. What we're doing in Amiens in France is we're building a Bailey Bridge as a, if you like, monument to every engineer unit of the First World War. And we're doing that because there isn't one to the engineers of the First World War. So many things happened in the last 100 days of World War One. And one of the famous things that happened was that it was 3 engineer soldiers who captured the Amiens gun. This was an enormous gun on railway tracks, and the barrel of that gun is now in pride of place at the Australian War Memorial in Canberra.
At the National War Memorial, in a sea of great attractors, the Amiens gun is front and centre, and so it's really appropriate that we concentrate on the history that saw this great artefact arrive and be on display at the National War Memorial in Canberra. So as we look at Senator Scarr on the left and the former councillor James Mackay on the right, at the opening of the Brisbane Australian-French Friendship Bridge at Anzac Park, it's appropriate to reflect upon what General Monash's thoughts were before this critical battle. And so presented next is his thoughts pre-battle.
On the eve of the Battle of Amiens, General Monash issued a message to all the troops of the Australian Corps. Quote, "For the first time in the history of this Corps, all 5 Australian divisions will tomorrow engage in the largest and most important battle operation ever undertaken by the Corps. They will be supported by an exceptionally powerful artillery and by tanks and aeroplanes on a scale never previously attempted. The full resources of our sister Dominion, the Canadian Corps, will also operate on our right, with 2 British divisions will guard our left flank. Because of the completeness of our plans and dispositions, of the magnitude of the operations, of the number of troops employed, and of the depth to which we intend to overrun the enemy's positions, this battle will become one of the most memorable of the whole war, and there can be no doubt that, by capturing our objectives, we shall inflict blows upon the enemy which will make him stagger and will bring at the end appreciably nearer." Unquote.
So in this next section, we're going to get a feel of the capture. We're going to get a feel of the controversy after the capture, and then we're going to hear what the German army itself thought about the Battle of Amiens. Enjoy.
For the Amiens gun, however, Burrows subsequently would call for volunteers, and Strawn and Palmer stepped forward, and all 3 men would have set off with their quantity of arsenal with the intent of destroying it. It wasn't until they reached the gun and performed an assessment that it appears that Strawn has requested the recovery instead. Strawn was able to get the locomotive back up to steam, and word was sent back to the Australian line for more engineers to repair the rail line. Over the course of the night of the 8th, water was acquired to fill the engine, repairs were done to the locomotive and bogies, and the burning rolling stock was shunted out of the way so that by morning, the Amiens gun was able to be hitched to the locomotive and was moved to the Australian lines to a position north of Amiens. The fact the rolling stock was still on fire is still impressive because all the accounts that I've seen has it said as the stock was burning, not that it had been burnt. In regards to by the 26th Battalion, as reported by Burrows after the war. Quote, "There was one amusing incident in connection with which I had better make the position clear. I was an officer of the 14th Field Company, 5th Division Engineers, and was on loan to the 8th Field Company only for the attack. I was on loan to them, and when the gun was captured. After the gun had been taken behind our lines, the OC of the 8th Field Company sent a man up with a pot of white paint, and he painted on the side of the gun in large letters, 'Captured by the 8th Field Company.' Naturally, the seizure of such a big gun, with the bogies it weighed 185 tons, excited some interest. Besides, it was the gun that the Germans had brought up specifically to shell Amiens. Well, when the announcement of the 8th Field Company appeared on it, the OC of the 31st Battalion was not satisfied. As soon as he spotted it, he sent along another man with another pot of paint, and the first announcement was painted out, and the new words painted on, 'Captured by the 31st Battalion.' In response to the Battle of Amiens, Quartermaster General of the Imperial German Army, General Erich von Ludendorff, stated that the 8th of August 1918 was, quote, the black day of the German army in the history of this war. Everything I had feared, and of which I had so often given warning, had here, in one place, become a reality, unquote.
So in conclusion, let's look at the tourist attractions of Amiens and where the Botanical Garden sits in the mix. And it sits at number 5. So it's an incredibly important addition to the tourism footprint of Amiens.